We're 15 years old this week, we being Philip James Independent Financial Advice, which started off 15 years ago as Philip James Financial Services. I suppose it's not that auspicious, but it's a round figure. It's exciting for me that we're still here, having changed shape a couple of times along the way. And I thought it might be interesting just to have a look back and reflect on what's changed and what hasn't changed in the world of financial stuff and financial advice along the way. Well, in 2011 it had taken us 7 months to get approved by the Financial Conduct Authority to go out and give financial advice. The us then was just me and Donna, who's still with me and is my faithful administrator, PA, mentor, whatever you like. What has changed there? Well, it still takes 7 to 8 months to get authorised if you want to start out on your own with the Financial Conduct Authority. So I suppose you could say they haven't got any worse, but that hasn't got any better. Financially, well, looking back in 2011, the FT index was somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 over most of that year. It's now 10,500. We'd just been through the financial crash, the global financial crisis, which was, or seemed as though it was going to be, the end of the financial world as we know it. We're all still here. Stock markets crashed significantly in the previous couple of years. I have clients who are still clients who I managed to persuade to invest when things looked at their most dire, and they made a lot of money. That's happened, thankfully, a few times along the way because there have been many ups and downs over those 15 years. Think the Eurozone crisis, we've all forgotten that. The EU was going to expire somewhere between 2011 and 2015. It didn't. It's still there. We're not in it. Draw your own conclusions from that. We had COVID, we've had all sorts of stuff. Stock markets have been up, they've been down. But if you put your money, as most people do, into a medium risk fund, back when we started out, you'd have grown your money by, on average, about 5% a year. Up and down, up and down, up and down. But that would be your average over those 15 years. Remember that in the same period, certainly from 2011 until the arrival on the scene of the brief Liz Truss, interest rates didn't go above 1%. So that average 5%, pretty blooming good, because if you left all your money in the Bank or Building Society over that time, pretty bad. Now, of the stuff we talk about and recommend, interestingly, and I had to Google this, and we'll talk about Google in a minute, the ISA allowance in 2011 had just gone up to 10,200. The cash ISA allowance was half of that, 5,100. Interesting how things change. It went up to 20,000. The cash ISA allowance is going down again next year. But we've all forgotten, I think, that the amount you can put into ISAs has actually risen pretty significantly, and it's become a very big part of all the financial planning now that we do for people. A lot of those tax allowances, though, have gone down. Capital gains tax allowance, the amount you could make before you paid tax if you sold your investments, was around 10,000 then, went up to 12.5, and has plummeted down now to 3,000. And that's, again, I guess what we have to say to people now is, if you've made money and there's tax to pay, nice problem to have, because there isn't really much escape from that, or many ways around it. Pensions, well, they're ridiculous. I talked about that last week. Perhaps you could go back and have another look at it. I'd like to get the clicks up. Pensions are ridiculous because they, again, have changed all those all those times over the years. We've had 2015 pensions freedoms came in, which was great. Auto enrolment came in. Now it's all going back in another direction. However, we still have tax relief, we still have tax-free lump sums. People still need pensions as part of their overall financial planning. And I think the bigger change from our side was 2 years after I actually became directly authorised, and that was what we snappily call in the business the Retail Distribution Review, or RDR. That made 2 big changes. It brought in minimum levels of qualification for advisors. Now, I very luckily had actually done all those minimum qualifications a few years before, just because I thought it would make me sound better if I had a few more letters after my name. An awful lot of advisors had to do a lot of running to catch up and get qualified in time to stay doing what they were doing. It was predicted that the number of advisors would plummet as a result of all this. That didn't happen. There's a few less of us, but not that many less of us. Those that are still around, as a result of the other change that was made, and that was getting rid of commission and bringing in fees, are charging clients more and actually looking after less clients because we're more expensive, because we could be, because we weren't reliant anymore on what the providers were paying us as commission, which was a dirty word. The way we actually get our money hasn't changed. It comes out of the investments, the pensions and so on that we arrange for you. That's the way a vast majority of advisors are still paid, because there's no VAT if you do it that way. But that's meant that we could set our own fees. Most people started off taking what they had been getting as commission from those providers, but actually have realised that that doesn't necessarily mean you can do your job properly. And I would say the majority are charging, in some cases, double what they might have been earning in commission since the changes which the regulator brought in to try, supposedly, and make financial advice more accessible. It's actually done the opposite, because, as I say, there are now a few fewer advisors serving probably a lot fewer clients, many fewer clients. We're now going full circle. There are proposals to reduce the number of qualifications that are needed to give what they're terming as some sort of basic advice. Is that going to be a good thing? Does it just prove that things weren't quite so bad before? Maybe it does. What hasn't changed over those years are the clients, what they want from us and what we should be giving to them, and that is generally the ability to sort out what they have and get it clearer in their mind what they want to achieve with their money and try and make it work for them. And really that's the basis of what a financial advisor does for a client. Find out where you want to get to, what have you got, what do you need to be able to get there, and then to stay with you and reassure you along the way that probably it's going to be all right. Lots of people can do a lot more for themselves because the internet has become a heck of a lot more powerful over all those years. I remember experimenting myself with social media back in those early days. I went on LinkedIn. I was actually asked to give a talk by the local Chamber of Commerce because it was such a novelty. How do you get yourself on LinkedIn and how do you attract clients via LinkedIn? It's almost old hat now, and all the talk about attracting new clients focuses on AI and what we have to say about ourselves to get all those robots to find us if you're Googling around on the internet. That is work in progress, I would say. And I'll just mention one other thing. About the same month that we launched, a company called Vanguard, you may or may not have heard of them, also launched in the UK, and they were champions of low-cost passive investments. Still a relatively new thing over here, and still part of an active debate. Is it better to actually invest very cheaply and match the stock market index, or is it better to have a fund manager trying to guess what's going to happen? The old story is that only half of them get it right at any given time, half of them don't, so you may as well spend less and mirror the index. That's the way most financial advisors have gone. I, because they launched around the same time, was a sort of fairly early adopter of Vanguard's philosophy, and have used their funds for a lot of those 15 years, I'd say very successfully. I wouldn't say we're a partnership, but we've run in tandem along the way. Well, basics still the same. We're here to help you sort out your money, organise it so it will do what you want it to do, and to reassure you along the way that yes, everything will be okay. Over those 15 years, there's been ups, there's been downs, the stock market's gone in all sorts of different directions. But if you've had enough in the bank in cash to not have to cash things in when they're down, you will always have done better. And that is really the continuing message. See you, well, I hope.